Before we go on our walk today, I just wanted to take a minute because I know the pandemic has been harder on some people than others, and I wanted to just reach out to my friend Peter because in the midst of all this, he lost his dog, Choopy, to cancer very recently. So, Peter, we're thinking about you. You've been a friend for a long time, and just remember, you never walk alone. And when all this is done, Charlie and I would be happy if you would come and walk with us. Hi, so welcome back to their walk with Charlie. We're going to take a different route today because it's an absolutely gorgeous Sunday morning, and we've all been cooped up too long, so we got some nice weather. I wanted to start off today with giving you that workflow that I promised you, because everyone's retirement is experiencing a fire drill right now. So how do we get it back on track, or how do we think about creating a new version of it? And I'm going to apologize on behalf of my profession, because I know that as financial planners, we ask you a lot of questions that no one really knows that answer. And I say that because I know that the answers we often get aren't very good. So we've had to develop a new vocabulary. So, for example, when we ask about what your goals are, this is a terrible set of questions because no one knows what we're talking about. And I know that because when I started going to the gym and seeing my trainer, Brad, he was asking me questions about my goals. And he wanted to know like how much weight I wanted to lose and what my body fat percentage was going to be. And I'm like, dude, how about I just come back? Like, let's start with easy ones. Like, let's make sure I actually see you again. Like, I come to my next appointment, or maybe I get a towel or something. Like, let's just easy baby step this thing. I'm not running a marathon anytime soon. And I also noticed that all the gym equipment while I'm on this topic isn't set up properly. Because if you've ever been in a treadmill, you'll notice they got all these programs like Interval Trainer and Gut Buster and all these other things that are on there. I don't know why. Like, I'm looking for the button that says tourist. Like, I want to walk on this thing with an ice cream and a camera. Like, I'm looking for a cafe. Like, this is, anyway, let me keep moving. So let's actually give you a different set of vocabulary that I think will be a lot easier to be able to refresh and revise what your retirement plan and your other big goals in life are. So the first thing I want you to think about, let's get rid of the word goals because no one knows what we're talking about. Let's use the word destinations. Because I think if we look at destinations, that's a little easier to get our head around. And there's usually 4 or 5 big destinations that people will ultimately talk about. The first one is, I'd like to be able to retire comfortably. And then what I usually add on to that is, we also have to stay comfortably retired. And that's where the work that we use from Dr. Coughlin at the Age Lab at MIT is very helpful. So we understand longevity and what planning for a 3-decade or 8,000-day retirement is going to look like. Because it's one thing to get there, another thing to stay there. So that's one big destination that we're all kind of aiming for. Another one could be, I want to intervene meaningfully in paying for the education of my children and my grandchildren. That's a good one. Another one might be I want to be able to leave a legacy to a charity or a cause, a church, or something that I care deeply about, and I want to be able to make a material difference. So that's a big goal or a big destination some of us are aiming towards. Another one could be, and this is a big one right now, as we see what's happening in the care homes, I want to be able to look after my parents and other people in my family that I care deeply about. I want to be able to look after them to the extent that I can. So these are some of the big goals that are destinations that most of us are aiming towards. And the reason that they're called destinations is that they're off in the distance and we can kind of see them. And as we get closer, they'll get a little more sharply in focus. But right now, they're just something we're aiming towards. The next thing I want you to think about are what we'll call waypoints. These are things I want to see and do as I go along the way to mark my progress, to track how I'm going. And they may or may not necessarily lead in the same way or the same place as what my destinations are. Actually, some of them might be quite a bit out of the way. So let's say let's go back a couple months, and I wanted to take a big trip around the world, or I wanted to go to Australia or Japan or Antarctica or something. And that's going to cost a lot of money. So obviously, if I take it and spend it on that, that's money I don't have to spend on my retirement plan. But that's okay, right? Because the waypoints matter. Because these are the things that add richness to life. These are the things that make life worth living. So we want to be paying attention to what are those things that, yes, we want to move towards our bigger destinations, but there's also stuff I want to see and do along the way. So what does that look like? So we want to talk about those things. And that is probably one of the most important ones that is really up for refresh right now. So even though the big destinations we got are still there and we're still moving towards them, some of the path towards them might be changing right now. And that's where we're going to have to maybe refresh some of these things. Because the big one, let me go back to the travel one. A lot of people are maybe going, maybe I won't travel as much, or maybe that's delayed, and maybe there's other stuff I may want to do instead. I have a feeling that like recreational vehicle sales, those big trailers, I think those are going to make a big comeback, because if you don't want to go on a plane but you still want to get around, maybe you take your house with you. So that's just a little prediction. What's the third thing? Because, okay, we got our destinations, the big stuff we're aiming at. We've got the waypoints, the things we want to see and do along the way. Oh, and by the way, do that with whoever's in the car with you. Make sure that you do this as a family, or you do this with your spouse or your partner, the people that you love, because they may have a different attitude than you have. So it's really important that before we start heading out, we all know where we're going and we all know kind of how we're going to get there, because there might be a little bit of negotiating to do. The third thing I want you to think about is we're going to have a way to track and mark our progress. So these, we call them, we have destinations, waypoints, and these ones are called milestones. And so the milestones are things that we can kind of see them off in the distance, and we know kind of what they're supposed to look like. So when we go past them, we know we're on the right track. So I want you to think about what are some of the milestones financially or otherwise that would mark your journey. So some of the financial ones would be, I've accumulated a certain amount of money in my retirement accounts, or I paid off my debts, or my mortgage is gone, or I've reached a certain amount of income, or something that we can kind of identify that mathematically is on the road and we can see it, and when we get there we know we got there. Or maybe it's my kids have graduated university or college, or my business is at the point where I can spend more time with my family. Whatever those markers are, it's really, really important we nail them down, we write them down, and we pay attention to them. And the other thing I want you to do is when you come across one, when you pass a milestone, take a minute and celebrate it. Because these things, they're worth celebrating, right? These are the successes that we have in life, and we know life is a journey, so let's enjoy it as we go along. So those are the three things I want you to kind of refresh while you're sitting around. Maybe you've done mowing the lawn or taking care of today. I want you to think about, are those destinations, are they still there? Are those still the big ones? Maybe the priorities changed a bit. What are the waypoints, the things you want to see and do along the way? How are those changing right now? How's maybe the math towards some of those changing right now? And how are the milestones that you're working on? What's refreshed? What's changed? How are we going to know that you're going at the pace you're supposed to go? And make sure we celebrate them as we come across them. So I'll give you guys those ideas. If you need any help with any of those, you can read more about that in my book, Recalculating, which I'll put the link up in the description down below. And if you ever need any help, just give us a call. We got a lot of help to support people with this stuff. We've all got time, right? We're all working from home, or generally more available than we've probably ever been because there's more commuting. And I'll leave it at there. So I've got some ideas in the next video, because I'm going to show you how we can ask better questions as financial planners and advisors. And I think in the next one, I'm going to give you some better questions that you should be asking, because I get lots of questions all the time, and some are great, lots are lousy. So I'll share with you some of the better questions that I get, and how you can ask better questions of your people. Okay, that's about it. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. Talk to you again. You ready for your cameo? Is that what you're doing? This way, Charlie. No, this way's home, Charlie. This is our destination, Charlie. This way, Charlie. Charlie, this way. I know this is new, but trust me, this is where we're going. I do this for a living, Charlie. It's all good.